Today, I'm diving into Dragon's Tower. This game mode is so tough, it makes even the biggest whales sweat. Well, as much as whales sweat. But DT isn't your daily quest. This game mode will push your entire roster to the limit. However, what if I told you there's a way to crack the code? There are some secrets and tips you can use to beat higher difficulty. So that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to show you how to slay the Dragon's Tower. I'll break down the basics of the game mode, the best heroes, the weapons and the gear that you need in order to succeed, and a bunch of tips and tricks I've learned to clear the hardest floors. So stick around, because Dragon's Tower is about to get a whole lot easier. And I'm Coles, a high-level HVH player. You can subscribe to my Patreon for early access to these videos and a chance at a monthly HVH giveaway. But for now, let's see what makes Dragon's Tower such a beast. Dragon's Tower is broken up by difficulty level, and each difficulty level has 20 floors. While each floor has some unique aspects to it, we'll first go over the global modifiers. The first big one is that there's no health regen, so if you get hit, that damage sticks unless your hero has an ability to heal themselves or shields the damage in the first place. And this persists from floor to floor. So taking damage in floor 1 will last with you to floor 2 all the way through floor 20. Next, there are no starting upgrades, so your hero pass is worthless here, as is Wizard Amulet and Wizard Rope. Next, cooldown is capped at 40%, like in Nightmare Mode and Hard Mode Arena. You get a set movement speed of 8, so you don't need any movement speed jewels, and some of the slower heroes get a little faster. Then, like in Arena, all of your weapons and tomes get max level, so you get 5 levels for each weapon and 3 for each tome. And lastly, there are no revives, so when your hero's gone, they're gone. There are also modifiers for each floor. Some floors have 3,500 Horde to clear. These are generally easier floors, and just require you to have enough damage to clear out the Horde. 1,500 Horde floors have 2 defined segments, usually around 1,000 Horde and about 500 Horde you'll get hit with special kinds of mobs. These could be kamikaze bugs, flying slimers, blobs that shoot more blobs all around them, an archer that shoots 3 arrows, and another archer who shoots arrows all around them. And just to make things more difficult as you're trying to avoid those Horde, there's also going to be fire on the floor and spinning fire along with meteors and nets. As with most video games, don't stand in the fire. Get out of it as soon as you can, although it can make sense to sometimes go through it in order to avoid a stronger Horde type. Lastly, each floor could have a modifier. Those modifiers include Unstoppable, which have Horde that are more immune to stuns and slows, Explosive, which means that Horde blow up when they get cleared out, Meat Shield, which have tankier, more HP Horde, and Nets that can slow you down as you move around. Those nets can actually be pretty tricky and are probably the most dangerous of all the modifiers. Lastly, it's important to understand that there are featured heroes. These featured heroes get more HP and more damage, and they're going to be crucial to beating higher level difficulties in Dragon's Tower. You're going to want to use those featured heroes if you have them in your roster. But there are a defined set of the best heroes for this game mode, and those heroes are incredibly important, so let's get into them. One of the big things about Dragon's Tower is getting you to use all of your heroes. And while all of your heroes will play a role, there are definitely some heroes that are way better than others. In my head, there are 3 types: Queens, Knights, and Pawns. Queens are your aces in the hole, your best heroes for the mode. Knights will help you get through a floor or 2, and then you have your Pawns, which are heroes purely made up to set up your Queens. So with those concepts in mind, let's go through all 3 categories. The Kings of Dragon Tower are the heroes that have some form of self-healing that can do enough damage to actually clear out the Horde. So Werebeast becomes your best hero in this game mode. Werebeast's combination of damage and defense lets him theoretically sweep the floors. He can go from 0 to 20 all by himself. In a close second is Warlord. He doesn't have nearly as much self-healing as Werebeast does, but he gets enough from his level 2 forge that you can combine that with his outrageous amount of damage in order to just keep all the Horde away while you heal back up. And then there's the shielding heroes, so Shield Warden and Astral Mage. Both of these heroes have enough shielding to survive through multiple floors of Dragon's Tower. The big thing with both of them is just having enough damage to let that shield generate. Astral Mage I find to be the one where if you can get to a corner and do enough damage, she can shield your way through the rest of the floor. Shield Warden's damage can be lacking at higher difficulties, but for floors with 1,500 Horde where you just have to survive through both of those event segments, he can be quite strong. And those 4 are your true queens, the best heroes you're going to have. Coming in at the next level are what I call Knights, and these heroes are good for clearing out 1 or 2 floors at a time. These are typically either very high damage heroes, or heroes with a bit of disruption in their kit that allows them to survive through the Horde. I've had a lot of success recently with Tinkerer, Barbarian, Knight, Monk, and Bunny. Of all of those, Bunny is the pure glass cannon. Either he'll have enough damage to easily clear out a whole bunch of floors, or he won't. Barbarian, Tinkerer, Knight, and Monk typically have enough damage if you can evolve their weapon in time, and then kite out Horde through some of the more difficult parts of it. Again, they're going to take some damage during the run, and so they're only going to last a couple of floors in higher difficulties. But having a hero that can clear a floor or two is important, because there's no real penalty for having a hero fall. And that's why you have a third class of heroes, your pawns. These are essentially fodder for opening up the floor. Because the first 30 seconds of the floor are the hardest before you have any upgrades, you typically take some amount of damage. Therefore, you can use some of your weaker heroes just to eat up that damage at the beginning and move as far as they can into the floor for one of your aces or knights to replace them. So that's where having an expanded roster comes into play. There are level requirements for certain difficulties. As you increase the difficulty in Dragon's Tower, your heroes need to be a certain level in order to enter. So Dragon's Tower is meant for players with an expanded roster, and having more heroes that you can at least use as fodder will help you clear out more difficult floors. Because even if it takes 3 or 4 heroes to clear one, that can be worth it, particularly at higher difficulties. So, now that you know what the best heroes are, how do you set them up for success? Well, with the best gear and weapons. When gearing up your heroes, you have to pay attention to the modifiers. Remember, there's no regen here, so health regeneration is going to be wasted. Evasion is also damped, so you don't want evasion jewels. The cooldown is capped at 40, and there's no starting upgrades. So let's start with the gear. Personally, my limiting factor in this game mode has always been damage, so I go for as big of a glass cannon build as I possibly can. That means a rogue helm, rogue chest, wizard boots, a rogue gloves, rogue necklace, and wizard ring. That'll get you the rogue bonus, and the wizard boots will help you collect XP, as it can be hard to go and collect the orbs when they're amongst a bunch of horde that you haven't yet cleared. If you're doing easier difficulties, you can put on as much noble gear as you possibly can, as you will accumulate a nice amount of gold keys over 20 floors. Alternatively, if you have enough damage, you can run more knight gear. The knight ring in particular can help clear out horde when a shield explodes, but that's only for late game players. For everyone else, you can focus on your jewels to optimize around those caps. So the standard set of jewels I run are Vulnerability, Ultimate Charge, Ultimate Duration, Projectile P, Projectile M, Weakness, and then some combination of Cooldown, Area Effect, and Critical Strike. During the run, you have to understand where your hero is on the damage and survivability scale. If they have enough damage naturally, like Warlord or Bunny, you can put a higher emphasis on getting defensive tomes and weapons. But if you need additional damage, then you have to focus on damage first. I typically run Damage Tome first, and then follow that up with Ice Wand, Armor Tome, Life Tome, and then I try and get Death Ray from Duration Tome and Arcane Staff. Now, some of the special weapons that are really strong in this game mode are a 5-star Smoke Bomb, a 5-star Scrap Hammer, 5-star Dynamite Slingshot, and 5-star Borer. Orchidus from my guild, who's one of the best players in the game, swears by Scrap Hammers being the best weapon you can grab in Dragon's Tower. He thinks it's even better than 5-star Smoke Bomb. And I'm inclined to believe him because he's really good. After you get through your defensive weapon set, I just try and add status effect. Because these horde have so much more health, something like Poison Dart or Crossbow to get burning and poison on all the horde can significantly amp the damage of your main weapons. Furthermore, if you know you're going into one of those 1500 horde floors where you're just going to need to survive through those 2 unique segments, it might be better to forego damage for pure defense, so rushing just Armor Tome and Life Tome straight up. And while you're looking for a mix of offense and defense in your gear and in your weapons, with your pets, there's really only one choice. The first big open secret to Dragon's Tower is the fact that Hydrobasilisk is incredibly strong in this game mode. Because Hydrobasilisk provides geysers that heal you when you stand in them, it's the only form of healing for most heroes. So that creates puddle-jumping, which is the strategy that I've named for jumping from geyser to geyser to heal up over the course of a floor. It'll take about 2 to 4 floors to heal yourself up all the way. But if you can successfully stand in the geysers and not take more damage from horde, you will get healed up and give yourself a bigger margin for error. If Hydrobasculus is not providing enough damage, or your main hero doesn't have enough damage, you can consider switching out for Crystalsaurus. Crystalsaurus at level 500 does way more damage than Hydrobasculus, but doesn't offer any of the healing benefits. For passive pets, I'm still typically looking for as much damage as I can get, so I go Owl and Pyrocrankin, or you could run Hydrobasculus with 2 snails. That'll give you more HP to survive through a floor. But you're gonna have to make up the damage from the main hero instead. While Hydrobasculus is the big open secret to clearing some of the harder difficulties Dragon's Tower, there are some other tips and tricks I've picked up along the way. I've mentioned a couple of tips and tricks already, so I'm just going to stick them here so that they're all in one place. The first tip is to use the floor to your benefit. That means if you can get away with standing in a corner, limiting the access the Horde have to you, it'll make clearing them much simpler. Heroes like Trapper benefit a lot from being against the wall. That way he can set his traps in a circle around you. The second big tip is don't be afraid to use your pawns. Use your weaker heroes to start off a floor. The first 15 to 30 seconds of the floor, you get very little XP, and during that time, you traditionally take some damage. Even heroes like Warlord just don't attack fast enough to clear out the Horde before 1 or 2 get to you. So instead, you can use a weaker hero and forego that damage that you would have otherwise taken. Now the Horde will eventually get to those heroes, but hopefully it's late enough in the run where you can set up your queens and your knights for a quality finish. Even better, sometimes they're able to survive through one of those event segments, which usually would just mean additional damage for your main hero. And those special segments bring me to my third tip. There are certain ways to kite the Horde during those segments. I find that the best way to kite ghosts is essentially in a circle, letting them spiral out around you. The archers, you just want to run away from. As long as they're not on your screen, they won't shoot their arrows. The next up is the kamikaze bugs. Try and run at them for a split second before you're running away. They need to get close to you in order to stop, but then you should have enough momentum to get away before they explode. And then there are the orange blobs of doom. Those things are just a big pain in the butt, and try not to be too close to them when they land because you'll get hit by all of their little blobs. Lastly, the charging drakes, the one form of dragon in Dragon's Tower, are easier to dodge the further away they are from you. Which brings me to tip 5, which is a VIP tip. This game mode is a lot more fun with speed boost. Playing at 1.6 speed takes away a lot of the negatives of Dragon's Tower. That first 15 to 30 seconds that are really boring are now finished twice as fast. Kiting Horde during those special segments actually takes some skill because they're moving a lot faster and you have to react faster. Now, in full disclosure, I was doing it for free this month because I'm a creator and I wouldn't buy it again, but if you have the resources, it is a lot of fun. And lastly, secret tip number 6, Seamar's healing. Seamar mentioned this as a throwaway comment in the main Discord, but it's actually a viable strategy. If you're desperate enough and you have the time, you can load into a floor, stand in a geyser for a couple of seconds, and then load out. That'll heal you during that geyser time, and that healing will stick. So if one of your aces is really low and you're at one of the last floors, it could make sense to take an hour to heal them back up half a percentage point of health at a time. Seamar is a raccoon who's got nothing better to do, and so that's why he did it. And I guess if you're desperate enough, scrounging up for some food could be a viable strategy for you. But why are you doing this all in the first place? Because of Dragon Tower rewards. Okay, let's get into the rewards of Dragon's Tower. These were initially really lackluster, but they've since buffed them up tremendously, and I think they're now really worth your time. The first reward is that for clearing all 20 floors for the first time at each difficulty, you get additional bonus rewards in the form of exchange tokens and skill books. Those skill books are really hard to come by, and getting a whole bunch of them in addition to those exchange tokens has a tremendous amount of value. Now, it technically doesn't feel great, but those are really worth it. And that's in addition to the hero orbs and exchange tokens you get from each individual floor. And you will get the exchange tokens and hero orbs for any floor you are able to clear that week. So even if you don't get through all 20, you can still get some rewards. What they've really improved upon are the chase rewards. Now you have access to Minotaur, a hero specific to Dragon's Tower. And then there's the Bulwark, a unique weapon for Dragon's Tower that should work well in Dragon's Tower. Those chase rewards make doing the grind each week worth it, at least in my opinion. On top of that, you have access to the original rewards, which are special hero shards for every special faction hero. Special faction hero shards can be quite hard to come by, and so this is a nice way to round out your hero pool. And in my case, before they introduced those 2 chase rewards, my plan was to get Bunni up to 5 stars. Although I did the math and it's going to take you something like 6 to 12 months in order to do it. That said, they've come a long way since the initial release of Dragon's Tower several months ago. It originally lacked a chase system and was way too long in my opinion. But they've cut it down to 20 floors and introduced a chase hero and a chase weapon, which is exactly what I thought it needed. Now the one thing I do think is missing are dragons. Dragon's Tower has 1 dragon in it, one of those elite drakes. It should have a dragon on the very last floor. That's some kind of intense boss fight. That, in my opinion, would bring the whole game mode together. So take what you learned in this guide and go climb up the 20 floors of Dragon's Tower. Here's to hoping that one day we all get to slay a dragon. And I'm Coles, a high-level HVH player. You can subscribe on YouTube or to my Patreon for a monthly HVH giveaway. You can also become an executive producer. The executive producers of this video are Cake Invictus, Riverwind, TheWuba, Krabs, Charlos, Dustin, Lady Ikaika, and Paradox. Thank you so much for your support. Please subscribe if you like the content. And remember, always do your adventures! I finally hope I got Lady Ikaika's name right. She sent me a video to figure it out. Lady Ikaika. Alright, I got that. Lady Ikaika.